and welcome to episode 11 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria, your host, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as mmonska. My blog is where you can find the show notes for this episode and other episodes, which is stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com, and you are welcome to come and join the Ravelry group, which can be found by searching Stitched in Sweden there. So this week I will be talking to you a little bit about what's happened in Stockholm, some works in progress, one finished object, a question and answer, some potential upcoming projects, and swatching that I've been doing, and a couple of gifts I received in the mail this week. I wanted to start out by saying thank you to those of you who have been in contact this week. And those of you who have written to me about test knitting, I have received your message and you should have received a note back. I will be in contact with you in the future for test knitting projects. I won't need everyone for each project, but I will, I have everybody's name on a list, so I will pick a couple of people to test knit when I have a pattern ready, and yeah, that's how that'll work. So, big thank you to you guys, and yeah. So, first off this week, my Swedish spring shawl was released yesterday, midday here. This is a pattern you've seen now for a couple of weeks on the show, but it did come out yesterday, and I knit this in Knit Picks Stroll Heathers in the Dove Heathers colorway. Knit Picks Stroll in the Dove Heathers colorway. And here it is. So, the reason why it's called Swedish Spring is because it is a little bit cold here in spring, and I think that's true of other places too. When I lived in Colorado, it was always a little bit chillier. It went back and forth between being cold and warm. So this shawl has a nice warm neck part here, but then still a very open lace part at the bottom, so that it's not too warm but still can provide a little bit of neck warmth, especially when it's windy and humid and you need an extra layer. So yeah, I have been wearing it this week. I wore it to Thomas's parents' house for Easter. In Sweden, we celebrate Easter on Saturday, so it was a perfect layer to have, both while we were outside traveling to their house and inside when it was a little bit chilly. It snowed on Easter, and it was a very humid weekend, so it was definitely nice to have an extra little layer. But yeah, so this pattern is now available on Ravelry, and I'm really looking forward to seeing projects coming up of it, seeing what yarn choices you guys are using. It's been really fun with the Flying North socks to see the different kinds of yarns people are using. There's a couple of people who are doing more variegated or speckled yarn, and they just look great. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how your shawls are coming out. If you ever are working on one of my patterns, or if you're watching the show and knitting, I would love it if you would tag your Instagram picture with hashtag Stitched in Sweden. It's mostly me who's using that hashtag right now, but you're welcome to use it as well, and it's fun to see what you're working on. Alright, so this this week in Stockholm. As I said, we went to Thomas's parents' house for Easter, and we went on Friday. We usually go to their house on Friday afternoon or evening for dinner, and so we did that this week also. We celebrated Easter on Saturday, though, with a couple of other extended family members and a larger dinner with lots of eggs and herring, fish, lots of different kinds of fish, and yeah, just a big table full of food. So it was a lot of fun, and it's quite a different Easter tradition than I have celebrated before. I didn't really celebrate Easter very much when I was growing up, but we had a neighborhood Easter egg hunt every year when we were younger. And we would always find these little plastic eggs that had 2 or 3 candies in them each. And here in Sweden, or I don't know if I can't say in general, but I know I've seen this type of egg that I'm about to show you in many places here in Sweden, and I've never seen it in the US. So I think it might be more common here, definitely. But basically, they have large eggs like this. There's Thomas's egg, this one's mine. And they open up, and they have candy inside. And basically, how we did it this year was that somebody hid them outside, and the youngest kid in the family, who is 2.5, he got to go out and find the eggs and bring them in a basket for everybody, and everyone got an egg. So it was quite fun to see how excited he was to open the eggs, and it took a little bit of, I don't know, he didn't quite understand the searching for the eggs at first, but then once he realized, he was very excited. So that was fun. But yeah, so that is one thing that we did, obviously, this week was Easter. We had snow on Easter, like I said, just on and off, rain and snow. But it's supposed to be a nice spring, sunnier weather upcoming this week, so I'm looking forward to that. Right after I finished recording last week, as usual, the mailman came, and I was just thinking he might come today, but it's a holiday. Monday after Easter in Sweden, so he won't come. But I did get a lovely package from my mom right after I finished recording last week, so I walked over to the post office and picked up the package from her, which had these 2 skeins of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Plume colorway, which is a rich eggplant purple, which is a little bit tweedy, obviously, Brooklyn Tweed. And this is a fingering weight. It's a woolen spun yarn, so it's very airy and lofty, and it has more yardage per gram, you could say, because it's lightweight and airy and doesn't have that dense, it's not worsted spun, which creates a denser yarn. And my mom wrapped these beautifully in some nice spring fabric, which she found in my room in Colorado. But they were wrapped very, very nicely, like burritos. And you could see a picture of that on Instagram if you'd like. But it was just a really fun package to open. And the reason why she sent me these 2 skeins is because my favorite shawl, which I talked about a couple episodes ago, My favorite shawl that I have ever knit is the Rock Island shawl by Jared Flood. It's this one. And I knit this in those two skeins of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the plume colorway. And I wore that shawl for a couple of years. And then most recently, when I was back in the United States for Christmas this year, I was in San Francisco and I lost it. I don't really lose things very often, so it was sad, and it's such a perfect warm winter shawl. So she told me that she would send me the yarn to make a new one, and she did, and it was a really, really nice present to receive. So I think I'm going to save knitting that until the fall, probably, because it's, I don't know, it just feels like a fall knit with the rich purple yarn, and then I'll be able to look forward to wearing it as it gets colder here next year. So that was one package that I received. Another package I received this week was from a lovely viewer, and she sent me 4 balls of the Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift in these lovely colors, which she had asked me, she told me that she wanted to send me some yarn, and she asked me what colors that I liked, and I said, I like most colors. I don't really like brown, but I didn't say that. I just thought of it now. But I like most colors, and I really like the color combinations that she uses in her projects and designs. So I said, just pick. I would just love it if you picked some. And I don't think I could have picked better colors for myself of colors that I love and that go great together. So really excited to knit those. She also sent me some Shetland wool, and this is from Jamieson and Smith. And she sent me this lovely light fawn color and this just natural cream color as well. Just little samples to spin up, so I am definitely looking forward to testing those out soon. I think for this yarn, I am planning on, well, I've been looking at a lot of colorwork projects, and I think that I might want to use it for a yoke of a sweater. I think it would look nice with my eyes. Pretty much the color of my eyes. So, yeah, I think I might use those for, and then maybe a color similar to this for the main body, and I might get one additional color, like kind of a dusty rose leaning more towards purple for another accent in the yoke. So I will keep you updated on that. But thank you so much, you know who you are, and that was a really, really sweet package to receive. She sent me some lovely tea also, which I have been enjoying. I like drinking black tea in the morning, and then sometimes in the evening I like to drink caffeine-free, something more fruity, or yeah, something more fruity or herbal. So that was really nice. Let's see. Also this week, oh, I forgot to show you this. So I told you that my shawl is now available on Ravelry, and this was just a fun little thing that I did. I drew the schematic for the pattern with markers, and this is basically what the shawl looks like. It's an accurate drawing of the layout of the shawl. So that was just a fun little side activity for the week. Let's see, a really exciting thing this week, I'm really excited about it, is that I bought a new camera. It's a used camera, but it's new to me, and I love it. Okay, let me just show you. Here it is. It is a Canon 450D, which I think in the US is called something different, and I think it is a Canon XSI, Canon ESOEOS, Rebel XSI, which is a couple years old, and I have the 18mm to 55mm lens. And I bought this on basically Swedish equivalent Craigslist. Went and looked at it with Thomas last week, and it's in basically perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And it takes really great photographs. So I'm really excited about this. I've had one digital camera in my life, I guess you could say, which was just a little point and shoot, which took okay pictures. I don't have it with me here in Sweden. I mostly use my iPhone 4 to take pictures. But I felt like, this one, I felt like with coming out with some patterns and things like that, I really wanted to up the quality of my photos. So I was looking for a used camera, and this just is the perfect one. So I'm really excited to get a chance to try some things out on that, and yeah, see what I can do. And it's a whole new a new thing to learn for me. I've never really learned about photography before, so that's exciting. But speaking of that, I did enroll in a new Craftsy class this week. Last week I talked to you about my class that I was taking, spinning from worsted to woolen, with J.C. Boggs Faulkner, and I'm still getting through that class and really enjoying it. And this week I took Basics of Digital Photography with Rick Allred, and he basically goes into how to use a digital SLR camera and how to use all of these settings here on this side and get away from these automatic settings or semi-automatic settings here. So to get more into the manual modes and program mode and things like that on this half of the dial. And it was a great class. I have to say that I am a Craftsy affiliate, so if anybody decides to take a Craftsy class, and if you purchase it from clicking on the link on my blog, which is stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com, then I do receive a small commission for that. But like I said last week, the only reason I advertise for them is because I really do enjoy their classes, and I think they're really helpful, and I really like taking online classes because you can pause them and you can take the time to practice some of the things you've learned before you move on to the next section. I've only taken, I think, one class in real life, I guess you could say, which was a sewing class, and I also enjoyed that, but it was just a completely different experience, and I didn't remember everything I had learned because you only received the information that one time. But with the Craftsy class, you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. So it was nice because I could, for the digital photography class, I could watch 5 minutes or, watch a chapter or a segment of it, and then look at the settings on my camera, play around with it, take a couple random pictures, and see exactly what he was talking about in terms of differences in what the settings are. So I really like that. And if any of you are interested in improving your photography, especially for taking pictures of your knitted projects, he does mostly talk about taking, I wouldn't even say like landscape photography, but he does take a lot of photographs outside, but he is taking photographs a lot of still things, still life, and the class is focused mostly on what the settings are on your camera that you can, and how you can use those to your advantage, and in what situations you want to use particular settings. So I think for me it was really applicable too for photographing yarn and projects and things like that. So I think it's definitely a useful class to take, especially if you have been mostly taking photographs in the automatic mode of your camera. You can really just expand your knowledge, and he didn't talk at all about the more automatic, well, I guess he did talk about them just to show a contrast between here's what the automatic did and here's what it looks like when you set it up how you want. And so that was it was really cool. So yeah, that has been fun, and I've been testing that out a little bit this week, and I'm sure there will be lots more to come. But moving on to what I've been working on, this week I have been doing a bit more spinning. I'm still working on the same braid from last week, which is a superwash merino and nylon braid of combed top from Fondant Fiber from Deb. And this is in the Riff Raff colorway. Right now I'm on quite a pastel color. I've just finished a section that had a lot of white in it, so that's blended in nicely. And I'm still really enjoying that. I have a lot of fiber left. I believe this was a 120 gram braid, and I'm spinning it quite thin. And I'm again trying to spin it really purposefully because I'm practicing new techniques with the Craftsy class that I'm taking. So yeah. So spinning, I did work on my summer top, my blue summer top that I've shown the past couple weeks. I worked on that a little bit. I am up to the lace section still, and I did a little bit of lace, but I decided I didn't really like the way it was coming out, so I'm going to rip back and pick a different pattern for the lace section. And so we'll see. I might work on that this week, I might not. It's just kind of a project in the background, I guess you could say. I did do some swatching for some new projects, mostly just because I wanted to swatch with the yarn. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to knit them directly or soon, but I did swatch with the Jamieson's & Smith Shetland yarn that I got last week from the Makery 14 here in Stockholm. And this is the 2-ply jumper weight, which is 100% real Shetland wool, and it's 25 grams. This is the FC37 mix color. And I knit this into a little swatch here. And I swatched for the tambourine sweater cardigan, which is a pattern that is in Pom Pom Quarterly magazine in the Spring 2015 issue number 12. And you can see that something happened with my Noop up there. that was the last one. I don't know what happened to it. But I just wanted to see how this yarn would knit up. One thing you can see in my swatch is that it's not square. And the reason it's not square is because when I am knitting a swatch, I try to get as much information as I can out of that swatch, because first of all, I find it's more fun to knit that way if you're not just knitting a square, and also because then you can see how different parts of the sweater will work. So for this one, for example, okay, this can sort of be like the technique tip of the week. For this one, for example, I cast on using a long tail cast on, and I did a normal 1x1 rib on the bottom, just for a couple of rows. And then, of course, I tried the stitch pattern that's in the pattern, so that's this round circle of bobbles here. I did a little garter stitch edging on either side, and then as I got up on this side, I wanted to see how the decreases might work. This pattern is written as a cardigan that goes all the way up to the neck straight and then has a round neck and like straight down. I would prefer to have more of a V-neck, so I'm planning on adding in some shaping for the neck. So I wanted to see, you know, how is that shaping going to look, maybe. So I just decreased a little bit on one side. And then on the top, I did a 1x1 twisted rib to see how that compared to the other ribbing, which was just normal 1x1. And then this is a detail you probably won't be able to tell so much on camera, but I tried 3 different bind-offs. So I did one bind-off, I think I did like 3 sections, so like here, here, and yeah, those 3 sections of different bind-offs. It's a little bit hard to tell on the camera, but it's just a way that you can see in your swatch how things are going to work, rather than in your project after you've knitted a huge amount and then maybe you have to rip out 200 stitches or something if you don't like how the bind-off looks after you block it or something. But if you do it in your swatch, then you can know. So that was fun to test it out. That's the first time I've knit with Shetland yarn, and it was lovely. It definitely is a little bit scratchy, but I could tell directly that the swatch softened up a lot, and it's not scratchy enough that it will irritate my skin at all. So I'm definitely looking forward to knitting with that in the future. Another swatch that I did this week is for the loose pullover, which is by Mira Stevens, and this is also in Pom Pom Quarterly. I talked about this last week as one of my upcoming projects. You can see my swatch right here. And this is out of Holst Garn in the Sugar Snap and Geranium. Sugar Snap is a lighter pink and Geranium is the darker pink. And I did a circular swatch for this because the pattern is knit in the round. But even for this one, I got a little bit of different information. I cast on at this end, and I knit this garter stitch in a different way than I knit this garter stitch. So depending on how you do your purls, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's basically 2 ways at least that I know that you can do your purls, and one of the way involves a bit more yarn. So if you find that your purls are always looser than your knits, I'll try to find a link to a different method of purling that you can use which tighten up the purls quite a bit. And so I did that for this garter stitch because garter stitch in the round means that you have to purl. And you can't tell it so much here, but I liked how this one felt better. So, those are my swatches. I did start that loose, it's L-U-S, and It means lice in Norwegian, which is a little bit weird. I talked about that last week too. Here's the yarn. Holst garn, super soft, 100% wool, and so I started it. I just am not convinced if I like it. I think I will like it, but as I was knitting it, I suddenly thought, does this look too much like a strawberry? So let me know what you think. I didn't get very far. Here it is. It is knit in the round, and I am knitting it on 24-inch circular needles on my Hiya Sharp interchangeables, US size 2, and that's a 2.75 millimeter needle. And yeah, so that's what it looks like so far. I changed the spacing of the dots because I wanted them to be more frequent so that I didn't have such long floats in the back, and also because I just didn't want to carry the floats. Like, I didn't want to wrap them around in the back like you can do if you want to prevent your floats from being so long, because it will be such a light top. It's lace weight, and I don't know. I just wanted them closer together. So in here I have them, in my swatch I have them farther apart than I have in my actual knitting. Alright, so the main thing that I've been working on this week is in my little bento bag here. And that is my next shawl design. I had so much fun working on this week. I don't remember exactly where I was last week, but I know that I was only on the purple section. But here it is so far. And you can see now that it has gotten quite a bit more. And it has most of the lace border. There's just a little bit left. And I'm really pleased with how this is coming out. I love the texture of the garter stitch section with this hand-dyed yarn. The purple yarn is from the Wool Barn. She's a shop on Etsy, and it is in her merino singles base in the Purple Magic colorway, I think. Purple Dream. So this triangular shawl is knit from the top down, and then it has an applied edging. And the edging is knit in Madeleine Tosh Merino Light in the Antler colorway, which is pretty much just a solid cream. So that is coming along nicely. I am using a little progress keeper to mark where I start each time that I pick it up to work on it. Just because then I can see how much I've done rather than just having it be kind of the black hole of knitting. For this shawl, like I said, it does have an applied edging. And in case you don't know what that is, basically what it means is I knit this shawl from here, casting on 5 stitches, knit it down and out, and then I cast on a certain number of stitches for the edge on this side. You can see I cut the yarn, the purple yarn, and I cast on the white along this edge. And basically what you do is you knit back and forth this way, and each time that you knit towards the purple, you knit 2 together at the end, one from the main body of the shawl and one stitch from the main part of the shawl and 1 stitch from the lace edge to connect it as you go along. So you're knitting the edge perpendicular to the shawl. And I know some people don't like to do this because it makes it seem like the edging takes forever, but I love it for a couple of reasons. The first one is because you don't have to worry about what bind off you're going to use that's going to be stretchy enough for the lace, because you're only binding off 5 stitches at a time when you make each one of these little points. And it doesn't matter really what bind off you use for that. You can just use a normal, like, pull 1 stitch over, because that part doesn't need to be stretchy. The lace is what's the stretchy part, so the bind off doesn't restrict it at all, which is really nice. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to think about, oh, is this going to be stretchy enough or whatever. So another thing that I like about an applied edging is that you can choose what your points are going to look like. If you want to have points on the edge of your shawl, you have a little bit more possibility to play with what the design is for the edge. So for this one, I'm going to have pointy points. And the nice thing is that they're going to be blocked and they're going to stay pointy because that's the shape that they're knitted in. When you have a shawl like this one, it has a different edging and the points are more created with how you block it, how you pull them out, which is fine. And I have knit a lot of shawls that way too. But this one, even before blocking them, you can see that they're pointy. So I like that quality in an applied edging. I think the reason perhaps that people think that applied edgings take so long is because they are a lot of yarn. It is a significant part of the shawl. I think if you think of the edging as a part of the shawl rather than, oh, I'm almost done, I'm at the edging, then you can appreciate that process more and enjoy knitting that just as much as the shawl. It also helps, I think, to keep the progress keeper so you can see, oh, I've knit 5 repeats of the edging, and that's this much. Because it does sometimes feel like, when is this going to end? Or how much, you don't really have a feeling for how much progress you've made. But just adding that little stitch marker in there can help feel like you're still making progress. So I really like applied edgings. But it's going to take almost, I would say 75% of a skein of yarn. And the top part of the shawl used almost an entire 100 grams of a fingering weight single. This is what I have left. So it's almost half of your shawl. So it's just something to think about. But I am so looking forward to seeing this blocked out. I'm guessing that it's going to grow like all shawls do when you block them. It'll grow probably 30% or something. And it's just going to be so cozy and warm with the garter stitch. It is a garter stitch based shawl, so that means there's no purling, actually. Yeah, there's no purling. I don't really mind purling, but I know some people do, so. Anyway, that is what I've been working on this week. And my finished object is, once again, not a knitted finish object. As you can see, I got really close with the shawl, but I did spend a bit of time writing the pattern as well, so it wasn't all knitting work on that this week. So my finished object is another bento bag that I stitched up this week, and I made this one for a friend that I will be sending her soon. I'll show it to you upside down because it's a little bit easier that way. But here is this one. It has a nice square bottom, and this is some of the fabric that my mom sent me, but I thought it was just nice and springy, so I needed to sew it up right away. So this works just the same as the other one. Put a project in there and you can tie it up. So yeah, that is fun, and I hope to get that out in the mail this week. I was thrown off a little bit by the holiday weekend and post office being closed for a couple of days. So, but then I got to show you guys, so that's a bonus. But if any of you are interested in a bento bag, I will be taking custom orders for these, basically by request. I guess that's what a custom order means. But because I do hand stitch them all, I don't have a sewing machine, they take a little while. Not that long, but it's not like I'm making a ton of these, because they're time consuming. And I would love to make you one if you are interested. So send me a message on Ravelry and we can talk about fabric options. So that is all for that. Upcoming projects, like I said last week, I'm still planning on doing the Fika socks and the tambourine sweater out of the Pom Pom Quarterly Spring 2015, issue number 12. I have not started those. I have been, like I said, working on my shawl a lot this week. Other upcoming projects, I would like to do some more color work, and I don't know, I might do another one of this new shawl design that I'm working on right now. I know Thomas's mom wants one of these shawls, so I will probably pick out some yarn for her and knit that up soon. His dad has requested a hat, so yeah, we'll see. So for the question and answer section this week, my question to you guys is, do you have any technique tips? I know a lot of you have enjoyed the technique tips that I've been sharing with you on some weeks, and I would love it if you would like to share any little technique that you know, which could be helpful to myself or to anyone else. So if you have a tip, it could be something, you know, really small. Like last week I talked about how to make your SSKs more neat. Something like that, whatever it is. If you want to share that on the Ravelry board or in the YouTube comments, then that would be lovely. And the question that I received this week is from Annalie. She is from Washington State, and she asked, do you have a knitting or fiber-related skill or technique that you'd like to learn in the future, or do you have a skill now you're interested in improving? So I thought about this a little bit, and I think that for me it is a technique that I would like to learn, which is steeking. In case you haven't heard that term before, that is what you do when you knit a pullover. So you knit a sweater in, for example, you can do it on a sweater. I think it's probably most common on a sweater, but you can use it for other things as well. But I'm thinking about for a sweater, it's when you knit a pullover and you want to change it into a cardigan. So you cut down the front of your sweater and then add button bands on there. I have never done steeking before, and I think it's a cool technique because it allows you to knit color work in the round rather than purling in color work, which is not impossible, but for a large adult size sweater, I think I would prefer to knit color work in the round. And I like cardigans, so I think it would just be a good technique to have, and I may be testing it out when I do something with this yarn. So I will keep you up to date on that. If you have a question that you would like me to answer on this show, I have a questions and suggestions section on the Ravelry group, and I would love it if you would leave me a little note in there. So I think that is it for this week. I hope you had a nice Easter weekend if you celebrated Easter, or Passover, or if you just had a nice relaxing weekend. Hopefully it was some nice spring weather for you. So until next week, enjoy your knitting, and I'll see you then. Bye!